right, so we're coming to you live from the 7-day street here at Ofanko, and it's all about the personal development series brought to you by the Faith Temple Child Development Center, a compassion assisted project. And just before we get into the session, I would want to talk to our participants for today. That is Pamford and Peace. Let's go talk to them. All right, so I just caught up with Peace and Pamford. Hello, Peace.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm very good.
Tell me, which school are you coming from?
I'm in KNEST, a second year veterinary medicine student.
Oh, awesome. And you?
Yeah, Prempeh College. Second year.
All right, so please tell me, what are your expectations generally for today's session?
I'm expecting a lot. I'm expecting a talk which when listened and adhered to is going to have a great impact in my life. Yeah.
Okay, and yourself, Pamford?
Yeah, I'm expecting to gain maximum knowledge on how to develop myself and influence the society.
I mean, tell me, how privileged are you to be part of this session? Because you are just two of a number that we had to select from. How privileged are you to be part of this session?
I should say I'm very privileged because it's not everybody who get this chance to be able to have someone to talk to, and yeah.
So any final words before we get into the session? And of course, I'm going to talk to you right after the session to know the maximum knowledge that you told me you are going to get.
For me, I hope that whatever will be talked about, I know that it will have an impact on my life, and I'll serve to influence other people too in the society.
All right, so let's go inside and go enjoy ourselves. I'll talk to you soon too after. All right.
Hello and welcome to this personal development series coming to you from ICGC Faith Temple Child Development Center in Ofanko, somewhere in the city of Accra. My name is Pastor Daniel and I'm a youth coach, and I'm more than excited to be here this afternoon, or to be surrounded by some great youth in this place. And this afternoon our conversation is going to be on decide your future now. Decide your future now. Let me start by saying that both success and failure are predictable. Success is predictable. Failure is also predictable. Someone might be watching and asking that, what do you mean by success is predictable? What do you mean by failure is predictable? Both are predictable because they are not accidents. And both are not accidents because of one word: habits. Habits. I'm sure you've heard the popular quote on habits that you don't decide your future, you decide your habits, and your habits decide your future. You don't decide your future, you decide your habits, and your habits decide your future. What's a habit? You may want to ask me, what's a habit? I like to define a habit as something you do regularly without much thinking. Something you do regularly. Let's take everyday habits like brushing your teeth. You brush your teeth without really thinking about it. You don't bother whether you are moving in a circular motion or whether you are brushing your gums. It's something that is natural to you. Another habit, everyday habit, is like drinking water. You don't really think about drinking water, do you? You don't think about drinking water. You just drink water because it's something you've done for so many years. Another thing we can look at is brushing, drinking water, and also even waking up. When you wake up, the side of the bed where you wake up from is a habit. If you like, you can experiment with that. Every day you are likely to wake up from a particular side of the bed because that is what you are used to. So habits are powerful. And so if you want to look at the future of a person, you look at their habits today. And if nothing changes, you can predict their future. That's what I mean by success is predictable and failure is also predictable. So let's look at some more practical examples. So let's take it that someone smokes. If nothing changes, James Clear, who is a highly noted author of a book known as Atomic Habits, said that if nothing changes, nothing will change. If nothing changes, nothing will change. So assuming that someone is smoking and nothing changes, what is going to happen is that you can predict that in the future they might have lung cancer, which is a product of smoking. They might have lung cancer just by smoking. You can predict their future. That is if nothing changes, if they don't quit the habit of smoking. We can also predict the future of someone who doesn't save, who likes to spend. They don't save, they are not business-like, they are lazy, they are not entrepreneurial. We can also say that such people most likely are going to end up poor. So you can predict the person's future, that this person is going to be poor, don't forget the fact that if nothing changes. Again, you can also predict the future of someone who doesn't like reading, likes watching all the soap operas on television. You can predict that this person is going to become ignorant, that they will have a future of no impact. They are going to be ignorant, they are not going to be known, they are not going to have any impact. That is, again, if nothing changes. So habits will predict your future. And I want to share that quote again, that you don't decide your future, you decide your habits, and your habits decide your future. So having set that foundation, you want to look at a few things. If it's habits that decide your future, then it's important to ask yourself that what are some of the habits that you can cultivate? It means that there's a simple principle that if you can just follow the habits of successful people, you are most likely to become successful. If you can also follow the habits of failures, you are most likely to become a failure. But I'm not here to make you fail. I'm here to empower you. I'm here to make you succeed. So I'd like to share with you the amazing power of habits. And then we want to look at 5 habits that as a young person, as a youth, you can cultivate that will guarantee a successful future. 5 habits that you can cultivate that will definitely guarantee a successful future. 5 habits. Habit number 1 we'll be looking at is the habit of reading. The habit of reading. One of my favorite coaches, Brian Tracy, said that reading is to the mind as exercise is to the body. Reading is to the mind just as exercise is to the body. The more you exercise the body, the stronger your muscles become, the stronger you become as a person. Same way, the more you read, the more you exercise your mind. Actually, it is believed that the mind is like a rubber band. The more you read, the more you feed it with information, the more you stretch the mind. So let's say that your mind could stretch up to a certain point, maybe up to 10 meters, but when you begin to read, it's able to stretch to 200, to 300, and you are beginning to expand your mental abilities. So reading is a very powerful habit that if you will cultivate the habit of reading, it may start by just reading 1 page a day. Because, you know, like James Clear says in Atomic Habits, if you want change, remarkable changes, you just start with tiny changes. You may not be able to read a whole encyclopedia, but you can read just a few pages or just 1 page a day. And you are cultivating the habit of reading. Another person said that today a reader, tomorrow a leader. What it means is that for the person who has cultivated the habit of reading, it's just a matter of time. That person is going to become a leader. You can predict the future of that person who is serious about reading. Some of the most successful people in the world today, like Bill Gates, it is believed that they read 2 books in a month. It's believed that Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook, which has changed the whole world, reads several books in a month. Several books in a month. As busy an executive as he is. So reading is a powerful habit that as young people, as you watch this video and with those of us here, I want you to cultivate the habit of reading every single day. Like I said, start it as an atomic habit. It can just be 1 page a day, not even a chapter. And with time, you will fall in love with reading and you can determine your habit. Another person also said that the world and the future belongs to readers. The world and the future belongs to readers. So if you want the world to belong to you, if you want to rule your world, you have to be a leader. And there's a favorite quote that I love from a highly respected coach known as Robin Sharma. And he says that ordinary people have big TVs, extraordinary people have big libraries. What an exciting quote. Ordinary people have big television sets. They're always watching the latest Indian soap opera on Ghanaian television or whatever television, cable TV you're watching around the world. But extraordinary people have big libraries. What does that mean? It means that for extraordinary people, reading is their thing, not television. One time in 2008, as a student leader, we traveled to a part of South Africa, and Soweto specifically, and we realized that when we entered, there were still a lot of poor communities, but one thing I noticed, there were a lot of antennas and satellite dishes on almost every roof. You had antennas and satellite dishes. That tells you that most of the people there, though they were living in poverty, are very well invested, have very well invested their time into television. But Robin Sharma says that it is ordinary people who have big TV sets. It is extraordinary people who have big libraries. They are always reading, because you will meet some of the finest minds in the world in a book. It's only in a book that you will meet some of the finest minds in the world. Some of the finest minds. You may not be able to meet them in person, because you may not have the currency and the level of access to be able to meet them. But in a book, you are able to meet their fine minds and rub your little mind against their big minds. And guess what? You become a big mind yourself. So the habit of reading is very important. That's our first habit to cultivate, the habit of reading. Make sure that you do well to cultivate the habit of reading. Habit number 2 is the habit of goal setting. The habit of goal setting. As you watch this video, wherever you are, remember to set goals daily. Goal setting, you can start by having a daily to-do list, putting down the things you want to achieve daily. It is believed that only 3% of the world's population, and don't forget that there are over 7 billion people in the world today, but only 3% of the world sets goals. Just 3% of the world sets goals. And actually, among these 3% who set goals, most of them don't write down goals. Just a few of them write it down. Most of them is just a mental note. They've not written it down. It's just a few of them. So if you want to be part of those who are going to rule your world in future, because don't forget we are talking about decide your future now. Decide your future now. If you want to be part of those who are going to control the future of the world, you have to learn the habit or cultivate the habit of goal setting. Set goals daily. Start with a daily to-do list. You might be a student. You may not have so much to set in terms of what you want to achieve and all that, but you have subjects to learn. You have from the library, if you're on campus, you know that from your hall you move to your library. From the library you go to a study group discussion. So you write down a to-do list. It might just have 5 items or 3 items to start with. But that habit, when it becomes a powerful habit, you will start talking about writing down things you want to achieve in future. You write down the kind of building houses you want to live in one day. Maybe you have a vacation house in Hawaii, you have a vacation house in Dubai, you have a house somewhere in your native country or wherever. But it all starts with just a daily to-do list. Goal setting. Brian Tracy said that if you don't write it down, it's not yet a goal. Until you put it on paper, it is not yet a goal. So get into the habit of goal setting. If you set goals, it is very likely that you are going to achieve them. It is believed by psychologists that when you write something, there is a connection between your hand and your mind. When you write down something on paper, there's a powerful connection between your hand and your mind. So once you write it down, your mind remembers that I have written this thing down. You even remember where you wrote it down. And it's most likely that you are going to achieve that. There's one popular actor in the United States, Jimmy Carrey. And this actor, if you've watched The Mask was a very popular series growing up. And this man, who is a very respected comedian, acted The Mask. And he said that years ago, he wrote down a check of $3 million and just wrote it down. He said in the next 10 years, he was going to get $3 million. He just wrote it down. At that time, he was struggling. But he wrote it down, believing that one day he was going to cash a check of $3 million. Guess what? He acted the movie, got a production called Dumb and Dumber, And in that production, he earned $3 million. Why? He had written it down on paper. And like I told you, there's a powerful connection between your mind and your hand. So put it down on paper, cultivate the habit of goal setting on a daily basis. I said start by just a daily to-do list. If you're a student, you may not have a corporate meeting anywhere. You may not have a sales meeting. But all you have is going to the library. All you have is going for a study group discussion. All you have is going to meet your lecturer to look at your thesis or whatever you're doing as a student. Or it may even be calling your best friend. You put it down on paper. And that's how you learn how to set goals daily and also how to set goals in the future. So that's habit number 2. We've looked at habit number 1. We said habit number 1 is the habit of what? Reading. And we said that the habit number 2 to cultivate, to develop for a great future, to decide your great future or to decide your future now, you cultivate the habit of goal setting. The habit of what? Goal setting. Is that okay? All right, now we'll move to habit number 3. Now, habit number 3 after reading and after goal setting is the habit of thinking big. The habit of what? Thinking big. I want you to know that you should never think small. Never ever think small. Think big. You may be small, but think big. It is said that think big, start small, but think big. Start small, but dream big. So never think small. Never think that, oh, okay, I'm in Ghana and it's all about Ghana. Never think that I'm in a particular university and it's just our campus. Think beyond your campus. Think beyond your nation. Think globally. Think globally. You may not yet be global, but think globally. Think big. If you have to think at all, do well to think big. The current president of the United States, Donald Trump, has had several challenges economically as an entrepreneur, as a businessman. But this is a man who thinks big. He thinks so big, as told in the book Think Big, by the same title, Think Big, written by him and another author. In that particular book, this author was struggling, and this author was into organizing conferences, seminars for training people. And he had an encounter with Mr. Donald Trump and went to him in the office and said, Mr. Trump, I want to interview you. I want you to become one of the speakers or one of the teachers, if you like, at this institute that was training people. And this man is called Bill Zanker. The name just came to mind. His name is Bill Zanker. And Bill Zanker tells the story in his book, Think Big, which he wrote together with Donald Trump, now President of the United States. He says that when he met Mr. Trump, he was looking at a certain figure. He was looking at just gathering just a few people for his seminar. But Mr. Trump gave him a certain target that blew his mind. And he told him, look, if you are not getting this number of people, I am not coming. You need me, I don't need you. If you are not getting this number of people, I'm not coming. I'm teaching you, young people, youth, how to think big. So Bill Zanker just said that, okay, I'm going to get the number you want. I really want you to be a speaker. So if this is the number you want, then I'm going to strive to get it. It was a very huge number of people. Guess what? When they thought big and sent out invitations and did flyers and put adverts out, do you believe that they got more than the numbers that they wanted? Just because there was a man called Donald Trump who helped them to think big. Today, Bill Zanker is a millionaire and is a big person because he was taught how to think big by Donald Trump, a man who thinks big. No wonder, though he nearly filed for bankruptcy and all that, every time he has had economic challenges, he comes back to becoming a billionaire, not just a millionaire. Why? Because the man Trump thinks big. Donald Trump thinks big. So the third habit you need to cultivate if you want to decide your future now is the habit of thinking big. So you may be living in a chamber and hall facility with your parents, but hey, my dear friend, think big. Think beyond the chamber and hall facility. Think beyond the zongo, if you like, or the area, the slum where you live. Think beyond the slum where you live. because you don't know where God is taking you. You don't know where your Maker, God Almighty, is taking you. I remember the story of the great speaker and the great author, the late Dr. Miles Monroe, who started life in a very large family and actually started life by sleeping on the floor because they didn't have beds. Sleeping on the floor because there were so many. But he became a world changer. Today his books are still all over. His son and daughter are still running Miles Monroe International and still impacting lives globally. So think beyond where you are today. Have a habit of thinking big. Anytime you are doing anything, think big. This means that you will not come out bare-chested or coming to brush by the roadside because you're thinking big. You're going to become big, so you don't want to think small now. You'll not be bare-chested walking in your house because no one is watching you. You're thinking big. Taking a global perspective and having a global view of events. Assuming that everyone was watching you on Instagram, are you going to be bare-chested? Are you going to brush by the roadside? Think big. Think beyond where you find yourself today. So habit number 1, reading. Habit number 2 is goal setting. Habit number 3 is what? Think big. Habit number 4 is persistence. Persistence. There's a quote that has been attributed to Sir Winston Churchill. Several people have said that is not how he said it, but how it's been put is something that is still educative. He said that never, never, never give up. Never, never, never give up. Be persistent. Every success story you see today is the product of persistence. Nothing happens overnight. So young people, dear friends, remember that nothing happens overnight. Cultivate the habit of persistence, never giving up. Never giving up. One great American football coach, Vince Lombardi, has a great quote. He says that quitters never win and winners never quit. Quitters never win and winners never quit. If you want to win, you don't quit. If you quit, what it means is that you are not going to win. So never, never, never give up. How do you start in cultivating a habit of persistence? It starts with your studies. If a particular subject is difficult to study, you choose to be persistent at it. You choose to say that I am not going to give up. I am going to be persistent. I'm not going to give up on this dream, because you need your degree to become what you want to become. You need your SHS certificate to move on to the university, to move on to your master's program, to whatever you want to read. You need that level of education. So be persistent. You may not like maths, but be persistent at mathematics. It's human beings who study maths, so you can study maths. Be persistent. No matter how difficult that subject looks like, when the teacher enters, your face, you begin to frown because you don't like the subject. But tell yourself that I am never, never, never going to give up. I can work at this, and if I work hard at it, I am going to be successful. I want to tell you the powerful story of one of the greatest motivational speakers in the world. He's still alive, to the glory of God. His name is Les Brown. And Les Brown tells a story of how he went to looking for a job at a radio station and went to this manager of the radio station, and anytime he would go to this manager, the man says, there's no job around here. Do you have radio experience? Have you gone to journalism school? Do you have media experience? No, sir. I just have a high school certificate. I just left high school. And he said, no, there's no job for you. But Les Brown had been taught never to give up. So Les Brown would go back to the radio station every now and then and say, sir, I'm here for a job. And he said, were you not here yesterday? Didn't I tell you never to come here again? And he says, sir, well, I don't know whether you sacked someone, you've had to fire someone, or someone died, or someone got sick, and there's a vacancy. That's why I'm here. He kept going to the radio station until one day when he went, the man just got fed up and said, go to the kitchen and prepare me a cup of tea. And that was how he was hired. Until he became a great media person, later moved on to becoming a politician in a state, and later went to the state senate, and later became and still is that great motivational speaker. a black man from a very poor background, but he was persistent. Had a high school leaving certificate, but he didn't allow that to discourage him. He was persistent. He kept going to that radio station, telling them that I want a job here. I believe I can work here. And he learned on the job and became a great radio presenter, later a politician, and now a motivational speaker with global repute. So never, never, never give up. The habit of persistence. The habit of persistence. We've talked about reading. We've talked about goal setting. We talked about the third habit, thinking big. And we've also talked about being persistent. Let's look at the last habit, habit number 5. I don't know whether you're a Christian or not, but I want us to take this habit from the life of, in my opinion, the most successful person who ever lived, Jesus Christ. You can Google how many people are Christians, or how many people have the Christian religious, or have a Christian, are Christians or follow Christ. And you realize that over 2 billion people, as of 2020, 2.3 billion people are estimated to be believers, to be Christians. 2.3 billion people. So if for nothing at all, Jesus Christ still has 2.3 billion followers around the world. That makes him the most influential person to date. 2.3 billion followers. So we want to take a secret from his life. That is going to be our final habit for this personal development session. The habit of prayer. If you're a Christian and you have a Bible, even if you're a Muslim, don't worry. The Bible is still something you can pick principles from. In Mark 1:35, we are told that Jesus woke up very early in the morning, went to a solitary place or a lonely place, and what did he do? He went there to pray. We are also told in Luke 5:16 that he often withdrew into lonely places. What to do? To drink water? No, to pray. So that's the secret of the most influential person in the world today. Jesus is no more on the earth, but still has 2.3 billion followers around. In fact, the Catholic Church alone, Catholic faithfuls alone are 1 billion. Combined with other Christians of different persuasion, Protestants and Charismatics and Evangelicals, Pentecostals, put them together, you have over 2.3 billion followers of this man, the Lord Jesus Christ. And his secret was prayer. Prayer. Have a habit of starting every day with prayer. We know of a statesman who lived in one of the most powerful nations at that time, Babylon. The name of that statesman was Daniel. Interestingly, that's my name too. And Daniel the statesman, the Bible tells us he had the custom of prayer. Even when the nation's president had issued a decree that don't pray, the Bible tells us that Daniel, in the book of Daniel, would open the windows wide, look towards Jerusalem, where, because he was a slave, he had been brought in from Jerusalem. So looking towards Jerusalem was a way of connecting with his God. He would look towards Jerusalem and pray, as his custom was. We can also see as his habit was. So we see in the life of the most influential person in the world today, and I believe forever, Jesus of Nazareth, with more than 2.3 billion followers around the world today, and the life of one of the greatest statesmen, Daniel, who lived in his days all over Daniel. Daniel was one official who was part of every single government in Babylon. He was so good that every government needed his services. What was his secret? He was a man of prayer. So as a young person, I want you to cultivate the habit of praying daily. One of the greatest Christian leaders of the 20th century, his name is Gordon Lindsay, founder of Christ for the Nations Institute and author of a very powerful book known as Prayer That Moves Mountains. He says that a successful life is shaped in the daily hour of prayer. A successful life is shaped in the crucible. A crucible is like an oven. An oven. You know, when you bake bread in an oven, you are breaking something beautiful. When you put iron in fire, you're refining it and it's going to become something beautiful. It says that a successful life is built in or shaped in the crucible of the daily hour of prayer. As you pray daily, you are building a successful life. You are going to get ideas for your future. So don't forget to cultivate the habit of reading, the habit of goal setting, the habit of thinking big, the habit of persistence, that is not giving up, and finally, cultivate the habit of the most influential person in the world with over 2 billion followers, the Lord Jesus, and the habit of the most powerful statesman in the days of Babylon, which is like the United States today, relevant to every government that came. Daniel, what was their common secret? Prayer, the habit of prayer. So in concluding, I just want to say that success is predictable, failure is predictable because of habits. And if only you will generate and develop or cultivate the habits of successful people, like the 5 that I've shared with you, you can guarantee that if nothing changes, if you don't change or move away from these habits, pursuing these habits, your life will definitely be a success. Thank you so much. And I know that you've learned something, and I'm sure that you are definitely going to improve and you are definitely going to have a great future. Thank you so much.